Hello, good morning, and good afternoon, my future chef friends. Welcome to this month's episode of Fresh for Kids. We are going to make a delicious holiday gathering dessert, and it's another twofer this month for you. We are also going to make some very delicious hot cocoa. So we will start off with what you're going to need for our delicious dessert. We are going to make cherry bars. Cherries are a very traditional fruit to use in desserts at this time of year, and it's just so pretty, bright red. It will look so festive at any holiday gathering, and all of your friends and family will be super impressed that you made this. So what you are going to need for this recipe, you will need 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 cups of sugar, 4 eggs, and you'll want those to be at room temperature. You're going to need a cup of butter softened to room temperature as well, which is 2 sticks. You will need a teaspoon each of almond extract and vanilla extract, a teaspoon of salt, and of course cherries. We are going to go the simple route, and we're just going to use 2 cans of cherry pie filling. Perhaps someone in your life is a very, very talented chef, and you can make your own cherry pie filling, but in effort to make this as uncomplicated for you as possible, we're going to use the cans. This also has on it a wonderful icing, so to make that we are going to need 1 cup of powdered or confectioner's sugar and a cup of, no, that's not right, yes, not a cup, definitely not a cup, excuse me. I could look at this and tell you it's not a cup. It's actually 3 tablespoons of milk, 2 to 3 tablespoons. We'll judge that as we go because we're going to make this into a drizzle to put over the top of it. So these are the things that we are going to need for our cherry bars. Today we're going to be using the big stand-up mixer. Not required at all, of course. You could use a hand mixer to mix this dough perfectly fine, but I don't have one on hand here, so I am going to use the Big Kid KitchenAid mixer today. And then for our icing, just a small bowl and a whisk will do you just fine. The first thing we want to do, of course, is preheat our oven to 350 degrees. Cherries are quite interesting, and when we come back, I have some fun facts for you. Be back in a moment. And we are back. What I have done while I stepped away, I went ahead and put in our cup or 2 sticks of butter softened into our mixing bowl, and I also put in the sugar, the 2 cups of sugar, and the teaspoon of salt. And what you want to do is cream that together until it's light and fluffy, about 5 minutes, depending on how high you turn up your mixer. And again, using a hand mixer is a little different than using a stand-up mixer, but you want it to be a light and fluffy consistency. It's going to look like this. We've got this together, and the next thing that we're going to do, next thing we're going to add to this mixture is going to be our 4 eggs that should be at room temperature. We want to add those in 1 at a time, and the reason for that is you want it to be fully incorporated in your dough. You don't want to have pockets where you have a lot of egg white or egg yolk, because it will make for a not super tasty bite. But I did promise you some fun facts about cherries. They are quite interesting. Perhaps you have heard that poem that told us that George Washington chopped down a cherry tree. However, it's very unlikely that that is a true story. But it really put on display his integrity and his honesty, which is why they made up that clever rhyme. Another fun fact, the average cherry tree, can you guess how many cherries are on an average cherry tree? If you said 7,000, you are correct. That is a whole lot of cherries. A cherry tree can be harvested in 7 seconds. That seems pretty crazy, right? Well, they have these pickers, and basically what it is, it's a machine that goes around the trunk of the tree and shakes it, and they do this with almonds and olives as well. The only downside to being able to harvest all of those cherries in just a few seconds is that it does shorten the life of the tree quite substantially. So it's a trade-off. A Japanese cherry blossom tree does not have cherries on it. So if you go to Washington, D.C. in the spring, hoping to see those trees, you might see a lot of beautiful blossoms, but no cherries. And there are 2 main types of cherries, sweet and tart. Sweet cherries are mostly grown along the West Coast in California and Oregon and Washington, and tart cherries are more of a Midwestern thing, and most of those are grown in either Michigan or Wisconsin, where they hold amazing festivals every year and have cherry pit spitting contests. And it's quite the rage. Traverse City, Michigan, if you've ever been there, is the cherry capital of the world, if you can believe that. They produce about 200 million pounds of cherries every year. My goodness, that's a lot of tart cherries. And as I said, they do host the official cherry pit spitting contests. This delicious fruit also has a lot of wonderful health benefits. Really, any fruit or piece of produce that is red, dark red, or purple in color is going to be filled with antioxidants and therefore very good for you, and usually pretty tasty as well. Okay, so that's it for my fun facts. So I am going to go ahead and get back to this. I'm going to be adding these eggs in, like I said, one at a time into my butter sugar salt mixture, and we're going to beat that well after each time, and then I'm going to gradually add my flour. And whether you are using a stand mixer or a hand mixer, you want to make sure you do this flour step very gradually and wear an apron if you don't want to be covered in flour. I will suggest you also start off on your very lowest speed until you get the majority of your flour incorporated, and then you can turn that speed up a little bit. But if you put in your flour and you turn it on high, guess what you are going to get a face full of? Yes, flour for sure. So we don't want that. So I'm gonna step away for one moment, and when we come back, I will have all of this mixed together for you, and I'll show you what your dough is going to look like, and we will get it in our pan. I'll be back in just a moment. We are back. So I have finished up the dough. It's almost like a cookie dough. Actually, with the almond extract in it, it smells very much like the cookies that I bake at this time of year. So this is what your dough is going to look like. The consistency is going to be pretty thick, like a cookie dough. So what you're going to do, you want a 15 by 10 baking sheet. Size is important because we're using a very specific amount of dough to put on here for the base to turn out even and not too thin and not too thick. 15 by 10, just an average small baking sheet. So I have taken 3 cups out of the batch of dough that I made, a little over half of it. We are going to spread this out on a greased cookie sheet. So cooking spray is fine if you've got that. If not, you can use a little bit of oil and a paper towel. You can use a stick of butter. Whatever is your preferred method for greasing, and sometimes it's whatever you have on hand. So I am just going to smooth this out into an even layer, and then after that we are going to put our cherry filling on top of it. Alright, so we've got this evenly spread out on our baking sheet, and then we are going to take our two cans, that's funny, not birds, 2 containers of cherries, one at a time. I was going to try to get tricky there, but that could get messy really fast. to rinse that and recycle it, of course. Can too. I make a recipe sometimes that my mom used to make for me called Cherry Cream Delight, and it's kind of similar to this, but it has a graham cracker crust on it. I really do love cherry pie filling. It's just so bright and vibrant. Obviously, I do love red. It's one of my favorite colors. Okay, so we're just going to make sure this is even all the way across. Equal distribution of cherries. You don't just want the sauce or syrup that it comes in over places. You want to make sure that you have your cherries distributed evenly so that every bite is just as delicious as the one before. Alright, so now that we have our cherries on here, there goes the train. We are going to take the remaining bit of dough that we've got in our mixing bowl, and we are just going to drop it by teaspoonfuls all over the top of our pie filling. It can be done in any fashion. There doesn't need to be any method to it. You can get very Jackson Pollock, who is an amazing artist. You should definitely look him up. You could make it methodical and space them out evenly, whatever you would like to do. You could use your fingers if you wanted to do this and get really messy and have some fun with it. But you do want them to be somewhat evenly distributed over the top of it, whatever method you decide to go with. And then once we have all of the dough on top, we are going to put it into our oven that has been, like I said, preheated to 350 degrees, which is like the magic temperature. And about 85% of the things that you bake in your life are going to be at 350. It's always a good place to start. So we are going to bake that for 35 to 40 minutes or until it is golden brown. Again, every oven is slightly different. I would check it at that 35-minute mark. If it doesn't look golden enough on the dough parts of it, you could leave it in there for another few minutes. Just keep your eye on it. If you need to do it longer than 40 minutes, I would say check it at least every minute thereafter so that it doesn't get overly browned. But I'm going to finish putting the dough on here, pop this into the oven, and when I come back, we are going to make the icing. I'll see you in a few moments. Hello, we are back. As promised, we are going to whip up this icing to put on top of our delicious cherry bars. This is a very simple part of this recipe. So we have 1 cup of confectioner's or powdered sugar. We're going to put that in a small bowl. And we have half of a teaspoon of vanilla, half a teaspoon of almond extract. We're going to pour that in. It's going to give us a little bit of flavor. And I've got, like I said, about 2 to 3 tablespoons of milk. I'm going to add it just a little bit at a time and mix because we want to get the consistency just right. A whisk I find to be the best tool for this job. You might like to use a spoon, whatever is more comfortable for you. I like the whisk because it really breaks up all of that powdered sugar so you don't get any big lumps. Now, because we're using vanilla, it is going to turn out just slightly like a sandy color. However, they do sell clear vanilla extract for use in frostings if you want it to be totally white and not that beige tan color. That is a pretty good consistency right there. I don't think I'd want it any thinner than that. So I used about 1.5 tablespoons to that 1 cup of confectioner sugar. But play it by ear. Like I said, start off slow. If it feels like it's just too thick, you can add just a little bit more at a time to get that nice consistency that makes it really easy to drizzle. So that is ready to go. My timer has 15 seconds left, so I'm gonna grab that out of the oven and show you how beautiful our cherry bars turned out. Be back in just a moment. Look how beautiful this is. I don't know if you can see it. Let me just lift this up a little bit so you can check it out. It is gorgeous, so pretty. It smells heavenly. It's definitely very, very hot. And as you might be able to see, my cherry filling did run over the edges a little bit. So one thing that you may want to do when you put this in the oven is put a slightly larger cookie sheet underneath it to catch any of the drippings. So I'm going to have a little bit of a mess to clean up in our oven later today. No worries, these are things that happen in the kitchen when you are baking, but there's always a way to fix it. So what we are going to do while this is still warm, we're going to take our icing, mix that up just a little bit more with our whisk to get it nice and smoothed out, and then just take a spoon and drizzle it however you like. This smells so good. When I was young with my aunt, I used to make almond cookies every year at the holidays, and that's what this smells like, and it's bringing back so many lovely memories. Smells definitely do that when you have certain things that you have at certain times. So this is going to be just as delicious as it smells, I am quite sure. And because we're doing this while it's warm, that icing is just going to kind of melt right into the top. And when this has cooled off, we can cut it into bars or squares, however you would prefer to display it, and put it on a beautiful serving dish. So I will show you what that looks like after this is cooled down. I'll take a picture of it and be sure to add that so you can just check out how glorious these cherry bars are when they're finished. My hot cocoa is in my thermal mug along with my marshmallows. And I have a feeling that when the rest of the library employees come into the building this morning, they are going to be super excited to have one of these cherry bars as a nice breakfast treat. I hope that you enjoy making these and eating them. And I hope that you send me a picture of what yours turn out like so we can see them. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. I hope that you and your family and friends have lots of great gatherings and get-togethers where they will be so impressed with the dessert that you have made for them. Have a great day, and we will see you next month on Fresh for Kids here at the Maitland Public Library. Bye!